computer. So I don't know if any of you have joined in the previous ones. Like I said, we've been holding this about every 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago, we didn't hold it, but the purpose of these is to kind of have networking opportunities for people that have been in the class and graduated. We've been running this for over 3 years now. And normally, like I said, we have an alumni on here that we spend about 20 minutes kind of quizzing them and what they've been doing in the past and what they're working on and what job opportunities they have. And they share their LinkedIn profile. But we'll get you in touch with all the people that we have from a LinkedIn perspective. We'll send that out. I'll put those out on this your Slack channel. But uh, it's really a networking career piece of it. We last time I think we did have a topic that we talked about. I think it was the software development life cycle, and actually we have a webinar coming up for it. But that's what I want to spend a few minutes on before we kind of personalize this to the class you guys are in currently right now. So let me go ahead and share my screen. And this is just a conversation, so feel free to chime in if you have anything you want to add. But and I'm going to be cognizant of the fact that you all have tons of homework to do and you don't have a lot of free time to do what I'm going to talk about. But the stuff I'm going to talk about, I think, is probably kind of like an unwind opportunity for you to say, hey, okay, I'm overloaded. I've got too much coding going on here. What else can I be doing? And there are tons of free 30 minutes or 60-minute webinars that you can just watch and listen to. And I will admit that they are going to probably feel like they're overwhelming to the point where you're going to like, okay, I'm not getting a lot out of this. But my suggestion would be to kind of make 3 or 4 bullet items on a topic that's covered in the webinar and kind of start creating like a book report portfolio of different things that are out there. We can only teach certain things in the boot camp. You're going to learn Java, you're going to learn HTML and CSS and SQL and all those kind of things. But as a programmer, there's a bigger ecosystem of all the things that are out there. And this is actually, we also have boot camps in cybersecurity. So, there's the same thing there. You can go get certified in Security Plus or Network Plus, but there's a broader understanding of what's happening in security. So what I would encourage you to do is find a webinar once a week and just sign up for it. They're free. They don't cost anything. I would probably caution you to say use a email that you don't care if you get spammed, because usually what happens is all the different vendors that are sponsoring that particular webinar will start sending it to you. And if you have a second phone number or want to give a false phone number, that's probably recognized too, because otherwise your phone will be ringing off the hook from all the vendors who don't get a hold of you through email. But I was actually on a really interesting one today. It was deep learning. It wasn't specific to programming, but they talked about the idea of, have any of you heard of GitHub's Copilot? That ring a bell to anybody?
Copilot?
Yeah, so GitHub Copilot is a controversial add-on to GitHub and Visual Studio Code. And what it is everybody knows what GitHub is, right? We've been talking about, how to do that. And I think Jason, we have to figure out how to get hooked up on GitHub, right? Were you the one asking about getting connected on GitHub?
No, I think I have my GitHub set up, if that's what you're asking.
Okay, some other student was asking about it, but
I was asking on how to upload
Chris,
stuff.
Okay,
but
yeah, so we can get you caught up. We'll set up some time for it. But GitHub was free open source, and people still are uploading billions and billions of lines of code. But then Microsoft bought them, and everybody's trying to figure out what's Microsoft's game here. Why are they going to spend billions of dollars and buy this tool where people are just putting up code? Well, it turns out we now know why they're doing it, and it is because they have turned their open AI, their artificial intelligent tool, against all the open repositories on GitHub. And they're all public. I mean, not all of them. You can have a private repository. So they are not crawling the private repositories, but all these public ones, they're crawling billions and billions of lines of code. And what their open AI, their open artificial intelligence, has found is it can code for you now. So they are taking and learning from people's coding experience, and they are going to start writing code for people. And when I say they, I'm talking a computer. I'm not talking people on there. So actually on my screen here, you'll see this is the AI pair programmer. So as you're typing stuff in, it actually populates it. I don't know if I can replay this one here. So somebody types in the signature line, and Copilot types in everything inside of it. It writes code for you. It populates all those various pieces of it. Now, the reason why it's controversial is because all that code, they're basically stealing it. They're taking people's code, learning from it, and then writing code on the back end side based on something it learned from people's repositories.
Assuming they're right.
Assuming they're right. And that's actually the other thing that's controversial, is that there's really no checks and balances in here. So it's going to get better as it goes, but there's a lot of bias. It might find some programmers are more credible than other ones, and might be use more weight when it comes to their code than someone else's code. So there's a lot of things that are kind of in play here. And one of the things that if you start reading about it, it only came out 2 weeks ago, is that, is it going to replace programmers at some point? And I would tell you, as a programmer, and you guys are all going to go in as an entry level programmer into something, is you don't want to be a programmer the rest of your life. You want to get to the point where you become an architect, somebody who's a big picture person, not someone who spends all day with a keyboard and type in code. You want to get the experience, but then you're going to want to move on to the higher levels of the bigger pictures for those pieces, because otherwise OpenAI and this Copilot for GitHub, this will be chasing you down pretty quick. We're not talking like next year, we're probably talking 10, 20 years down the road. But I signed up for their beta. If you're interested, you can go to your GitHub thing and sign up for it. You have to use, it's tied to Visual Studio Code, so VS Code, what you're using in class anyway. So it asks you how often you use it. I said I use it at least once a week. So we're curious if when I get into the beta for it. But anyway, there's a lot of controversy. But the reason I bring this up, and it is related to what I'm talking about from a career perspective, is this is a hot topic for a lot of programmers that are in the field. I was talking to my son today at State Farm, and he was on a call today, and he said the first 15 minutes were a bunch of programmers geeking out about how this Copilot for GitHub was launched 2 weeks ago. And I remember being in a meeting back in, I think it was 2007, when cryptocurrency was first coming out. And we were in a meeting, and probably the first half hour was a bunch of programmers geeking out on how cryptocurrency was going to take over the world, and how we should create a bunch of mining servers for our cryptocurrency in our data center. These pieces that you pick up that are outside your normal wheelhouse of Java programming and HTML and CSS and stuff like that is a great gateway or segue when you're going into an interview. I can picture going into an interview and sitting down with somebody at, let's say, Honeywell, and you got to break the ice. The first thing, like, oh, how are you doing today? Oh, I'm doing good. I was just reading about this Copilot that GitHub launched, and I'm pretty sure that somebody on the other side that's interviewing you might go, oh my God, have you been reading about that and keeping up to date? And you get this conversation going. But the thing is, you need to have these little seeds that you can plant of stuff to kind of break the ice and show that you're not a one-trick pony and that you can code Java. So my advice to you would be to find webinars, find stuff to read once a week. Don't make this a huge thing. Spend an hour on after you're decompressing, or maybe you want to take a break from programming, do a quick Google search on an article or a video or a webinar that's coming up, and set time up for it, and start creating a Word document. Put the name of the webinar, put down the date and time you attended, and you can put the URL, because a lot of times they record it, that you can go back and review it later on, and then 3 bullet items, and just make a Word document and keep filling this stuff in. And then before you go into an interview, kind of read it and pick a snippet or two, and that you can go in, and if they ask how you're doing, you go, oh, I'm doing great. I just got done reading this article about blank. And one of our students, his name was not Bill Compton, Bill Pulowski. he went into his interview at Deloitte, and he had a half-hour interview, and 20 minutes of it was just chatting about stuff that had nothing to do to his interview. And what they ended up doing was cramming through the last 10 minutes, all these technical stuff. And the guy was like, yeah. I mean, he didn't really have a chance to drill in on anything because they spent most of the time talking about something else. So we actually have one of our former students, Abraham, is on. I'm glad we have on. And Abraham, we have Chris and Jason, who are two of our current students, and James is our instructor, which I think you all know that part of it. But Abraham, I know you had some disappointing news, but what have you been up to?
How's it going, everybody? So I mean, lately I've been trying to look for a job. Unfortunately, I got laid off about 3 weeks ago. So at the moment, I am doing unemployment. So the good thing about that is that they actually have a new program where they're helping people who have unemployment get a job. So one thing that I did was I actually submitted my resume to it's a website called Arizona Job Connection.
Mm-hmm.
And so the good thing is they're helping there to find a job. Now tomorrow I have an orientation, so we'll see how that goes. And but yeah, I mean lately I've been applying for jobs, and I haven't had any luck. You know, I have a couple interviews, but you know, no offer yet. So you know, I'll keep you guys updated as that goes.
Yeah. So, Abraham, so I didn't realize the part about being laid off. So that I didn't mean to bring up that, but let's go ahead and give me a call tomorrow if you have some time. Let's go ahead and get you connected with some other people. Paul Corza at Tech One is looking for some people to do kind of reskill himself as a C# programmer. And I don't think that's that far off from Java. And he's got some positions open up where they don't expect, rock stars when it comes to C#. They just want some people familiar with the environment, and they're going to do the training on the job. So let's connect with me tomorrow. Send me a message. You have my phone number? Do you have my phone number? Or you have my email. Send me an email what time works for you, and we'll set up a Zoom call. We'll get you set up on some stuff like that.
Cool. Yeah, I'll go ahead and do that. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And who else? Did Phil join? Who else?
Yes.
So Phil's another graduate who actually is working, and just got converted over to a full-time job from an internship. And hey, Phil, you want to fill them in on what kind of cool stuff you're doing?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. I am a graduate from the COVID summer class, I guess, right? End of spring, all of summer. I finished the course last August. And then I transitioned into my internship beginning of this year, starting the 1st of February, essentially. That was about a four-month internship. I was actually doing 100% essentially front end. So I was doing all React, which is what we briefly talked about and kind of went over in class to do the Uno project, but I full-fledged went in. Luckily enough, Rob and I were doing some things on the side in regards to React Native, building a little bit of an app. So that kind of gave me a little bit more exposure to the front end. So I've been doing that since I've started. Now, as of recently, so I've made a few account settings, web pages. I have as of recently, I'm working actually in Node, which is server endpoints. So I have worked with Dropbox's server integration, as well as currently I'm working with Google, which has been a fun ordeal when you're working with third parties and trying to get clients permissions, get them authorized, getting tokens and setting that stuff in our databases, and then calling on them again when you need to fetch the data we need. So Google's kind of tricky compared to Dropbox. They have essentially 3 categories you can pull files and folders from. There's like your actual drive, there's a shared drive, and then there's items that are shared with you. 2 of them have different calls, so it's been fun trying to navigate and get all that stuff placed and presented properly on the front end. I even built a folder tree, which is a big accomplishment on my behalf, because that is not a very easy ordeal to kind of do, especially when you're working with recursive methods. But That's kind of what we're working on now, and that's my biggest project is finalizing and finishing up Google authentication and essentially folder data fetching from their servers.
Yeah. So if we've been talking to Phil about a year ago, all these geeky words and things he just got done throwing out of there wouldn't be in his vocabulary. But now him and I will chat. I'm like, holy cow, you sound like a programmer. And that's where we want you all to get. And it took Phil a while, but yeah, you probably said half the things you said, Chris and Jason and Abraham are like, huh, what? I don't get it. But it's cool to be geeky, isn't it, Phil?
Yeah, no, it's been fun. It is for sure a crazy roller coaster of when you first start. I remember like the not most challenging, but one of the trickier ones was like the pig Latin assignment of just trying to build conditions on when you want to intersect and not intersect. But it's like that complexity there, and finding the simplest way of doing it is a very useful key on how coding is just a mindset when you're tackling a problem. You'll find out later on there's more things that I don't know if they touched on, like there's more efficient ways, which I'm sure James and Rob have talked about it, of you do code in 100 and there's other people who can probably do it in 10, and there are in companies will be looking for, but it's going to take some time to get to that point. Even me, that's still a growing opportunity for me to be more efficient. Even with my coding that I'm doing, I still try to pick the brains of my seniors of like, hey, this is what I came up with. Is there a more efficient way of getting this done and simplifying this code so it's either reusable, it's in a good way that it can be easily tested. So there's a lot of different things, but I wouldn't have thought I'd be at this point now where I am, roughly a year later, but definitely a fun opportunity. I've been having fun in this role, and I really enjoy the front end aspect. So yeah.
So
was the internship paid?
Yeah, it was a paid internship. So I was hourly for the internship. It was 40 hours. And then now I'm officially hired and salary and everything.
Okay.
So
cool.
Yeah, I would not encourage anyone to take on a free internship unless there was really no other option. There are enough paid internships out there. And in fact, we were just on a call with Discount Tire, who's up in North Phoenix. And they are saying that they want to start an internship program because what they're finding is that students that come in might not have the skill sets that fit or the culture that fits into their company. So the internship allows them to do an extended interview with those people. They get to test drive them for a summer or a semester or whatever their internship happens to be, but they are paid. I think it's actually illegal for you to work without having some form of compensation. Now you can get compensated in terms of credits for a college, but since you guys would have been done, the paid internship, I think is really the only way to go for some of that stuff. So
yeah, I think they did that back in. It's funny because actually, I think I was like one of the last few within that year of 2013, 2014 ish is when that ended up happening. Some students ended up like taking it to court because of the amount of work interns were doing and not being compensated in any form of another, that the courts was like, listen, if you're going to if you would pay a normal employee to do this, you need to compensate interns to do this. It's essentially how it works.
Yeah. Now we do have two high school students that are interning for us this summer, and they're actually doing some coding work for us, some very incredible coding work. Some of the people coming out of high school nowadays are pretty incredible, but they're doing some coding stuff and they're not getting paid for it. So that would be the only example I would say where you would not be, but normally you're going to want to get paid for something like that. So to kind of recap, and I see we had another one of our graduates. I'll introduce Jared here in just a second, but to kind of just keep looking at what's going on in technology. If there's something that's very personal to you, like that you are very interested in. So like here's secure coding. I just typed in secure coding with the Plus webinar. And these are different things that are coming up here. So let's see if I can find one here. Everything you need to know about coding. Let's see if they have any ones that are coming up here. These are recent posts. AI and cybersecurity. So for those that are in a cybersecurity background, we can go ahead and read this. So this might just be a reading one. So this is an article. So here's one that you could read it. And just again, 2 or 3 bullet items, put down the URL where you got it from, the date you read it, and just pick a couple topics here. And if you go into an interview and you can say, hey, what have you been working on? Well, I know we do some stuff in class, but I also like reading outside. And I was just reading about how AI and cybersecurity, there's a paradox or contradiction between them stuff. It as an employer, when I was doing it stuff, I like the fact that students were not so narrowed into what they were trying to accomplish in their job, and that they were well read, because that's what makes a strong technology person, is someone who's got a broader understanding of what's going on. So here's a that's one. Actually, I'm going to go back here to LinkedIn, because this is usually where I find my so actually here's one: executive virtual roundtable. So I'm not an executive, I'm a director. I'm not like a VP or CIO or anything like that, but I get invited to these things here where I can go and listen to them and talk about networking, because most of the people on here are director level or higher. And I just listen, and every now and then they'll ask you a question and you just kind of answer the best way you can. But I will get connected to all the CIOs on that particular piece. But on LinkedIn, if you're not on here, this is another one of those kind of go-to places. Naomi's the one that invited me to it. But here's one. This one's not specific to anything that you guys would know anything about. Let's see here. Our latest ebook, that's there. Let's see whether we got stuff coming up here. Here's a React. Oh, so this guy's pretty funny. If you're on LinkedIn, find Pete Hurd and follow him. He's a JavaScript programmer, and he's got some pretty interesting takes on what's going on in the industry. But here, so intranets, we don't do much with intranets. Let's see if I can find something with machine learning has kind of been my fun stuff to see lately. Let's go see if I can find something here. Machine learning, and I'm going to go to posts here, and we'll see what's got coming up here in posts. So who's got some things coming up? I'm hoping that somebody has a webinar that we can go to. This machine grows new skin for burn patients. Now that's not tech specific technology, but something with machine learning in there. DevRev. Not enough. I should have bookmarked a couple of these, because it's all day long I'm getting invited to these free webinars of stuff that you can attend. And usually they ask for an email address, can ask for a phone number, and ask for your title. So put them on there. And like I said, the one I did today was machine learning and AI. Do I have that one in my inbox? Actually, here's the one. Here's what I'm going to do tomorrow. I think this one. Where is it? Nope, can't find that one. I don't know. I'll find the one I'm going to do tomorrow here. Secure coding. Shoot. Anyway, so the point for that one is find some stuff, diversify your knowledge and understanding of what's going on. The other thing I wanted to talk about is that I'm going to, I might have mentioned this, but my plan is to get certified AWS certified cloud practitioner. It's their entry level cloud practitioner one. It's probably one of the easier exams. There's a free one. You can do fundamentals or foundations, AWS certified cloud foundational. And you watch like 10 hours of video, answer a couple questions, and you get certified, and you can actually add it to your GitHub profile. But I'm going to go through and I'm going to watch the videos. This is all free. It costs money to take the exam, but my son at State Farm was saying that they are going to mandate that all of their programmers get this practitioner. They're gonna go through, and they're actually going to run workshops there at State Farm. So if you can come in with that, think how that's going to give you a nice little head start on applying for jobs. Then if you can come in and say, hey, I am already AWS certified cloud practitioner, it's got some crazy like 80% pass rate. So it's not a very hard test. There's a 65% multiple choice foundational. There are some components specific to AWS, like their billing structure and some of their services, but a lot of it is cloud foundational understanding, like what the cloud is and why it's beneficial. So if anyone's interested in doing that, I can set up, a time where we can all kind of get together and kind of, watch some videos together, talk about it. When I got my PMP, my project management professional one, most of my friends who did it on their own, try to do it on their own, didn't pass. That one has like a 40% pass rate. So it's a little harder. But when we did it together, there's like 3 of us that did it together, we passed. I think there's a lot to be said for being together and kind of somebody holding you accountable for showing up, doing the readings, talking about stuff and practicing stuff. So if you're I'll post this up in the Slack channel, but if you're up for it, I expected probably about an 8-week process where, maybe an hour each week, and we can go through and there's free stuff here. I'll send you the links for free stuff here though. But here's the sample questions. I don't know if this will make sense. I didn't actually look at these before I popped them up, so they might be really hard here. So is by me start using their solutions. So yeah, this wouldn't make a lot of sense for you right now because these are all AWS services that are part of the cloud. So that's where you'd have to learn the AWS specific, but they will give you stuff that is more general in terms of it. But anyway, if you get certified, you can then add the credentials after your name of you are I think it's ACCP or it's ACP. I forget the acronym, but anyway, if you're interested, let me know and we can do that together. Otherwise, I'm going to do it on my own. I'll probably start it maybe the first part of August and then be done around September. And then my goal is to take the test probably September or October. There's a couple of Udemy courses, but I don't think I'm going to use those unless I feel like I'm getting stuck on something. So anyway, so that's that piece of it. So we do have another alumni, Jared Jacobson, who graduated. I think we had a discussion last time. What, about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago?
Yeah, I think that's about right. Seems like yesterday, but
So I know you kind of did your longer introduction last time, but you want to give just a short snippet of what you're doing at today and what company you're working at?
yeah. So I work for Keros Health. It's a medium-sized healthcare nonprofit based in Phoenix. They have clinics throughout the valley. The clinics primarily. We started out with behavioral health and with behavioral health issues, and then now we do primary care. But our core is for behavioral health, helping people with behavioral health issues. And I'm a software developer for them on the BI team, the business intelligence. So my team basically
Oh, we lost Jared. Oh, no, we didn't. Jared, you're muted.
did you hear any of the other stuff?
Yeah, we did.
So something knocked me out. So I'm on the BI team, and we basically gather data and structure it, create models for the company to make this business and medical decision off of. And my role on the team is I connect to third-party APIs. I create a pipeline. And that's primarily what I do. I actually have a new project I just got handed to me last week. Just connecting to another API for I don't know how far I can really go into it, or
Right.
I'm still learning. Yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much what I do. I'm the API guy. That's well, my camera's over here.
That's okay.
So that's what's the chair my boss gave me, but I'm the expert or whatever, what they want to call for APIs. So I got my niche, and therefore they can't do anything without me. That's good.
Yeah, so that's actually a great place to be in, to be the expert or the only person that knows some stuff. But keep branching out and adding on to that so that they can keep you for some other things. So API, I know I don't think you've got to that in the class you're in right now for the two students that are current students. But APIs, I mentioned Hawaiian Airlines. They're a big API company. They do a lot with APIs. My son who works at State Farm, I need to get him on this call. I'm not sure why I keep talking for him. We need to get him on this call. But he's the one that works for State Farm, and they're doing the cloud practitioner stuff. But he's also doing APIs. So he's actually building dashboards, internal dashboards, and they're using APIs to talk to all their different systems within the State Farm environment. So, and I'm pretty sure.
Are they using Node?
I think he's using React because he's building. No, they're using Splunk.
Oh, okay.
So they're using the Splunk platform. So Splunk is a integration tool that you can put the API calls into. So he's not building the APIs, he's consuming them, which I assume the same thing Jared's doing.
That's what I'm doing. Yeah. I'm
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think the same thing Phil's doing, right? You're doing consuming AP. You're not building APIs. You're actually consuming them from Google and Dropbox and stuff like that. Is that correct?
Yeah, basically. I mean,
Yeah.
the only thing I use is like the stuff I build for the front end to hit is I use your SDK libraries.
Yep.
And I'll just structure it and I just consume the data that I need for the front end.
Yeah, so that's a pretty common theme of, you know, things that you might be doing when you actually graduate is to be using APIs. And you know, James and I probably need to talk about maybe, yeah, APIs are fun. So Abraham's got it. So Abraham, did you use them from class, or did you have any experience outside class with APIs?
I'm talking more experience from class. I really liked using API because I feel like it ties everything together and you're really able to see what you have created.
Yeah, and the nice part about it is there's probably less coding than building the API. So to build a provider from APIs, you've got to tie into all the databases and all the data sources and all those pieces. You got security that goes on that you have to build, authentication and authorization. But from an API consumer perspective, you pass the credentials, you get access to what you need, and then your job is just to make it format or put it where it needs to go in the correct form,
Exactly.
other piece.
Yeah.
So
those are way easier as long as those some of those
Yeah.
third parties are well documented.
Yeah, you really only have to be concerned with connecting to the API and being able to
just connect.
use the data that you get the parse it.
Yeah, and parsing,
Yeah.
yes. So understand the
Parsing
data,
is
the
the biggest.
parsing. Yep, exactly. So you guys nail it. So for Jason and Chris, when you get to the API part, which I think, James, you cover that in the 235 class, or do you wait till the 341 for the APIs?
It's coming up soon.
So see, so you got something to be excited about. You
Right
get-
Right now, we're doing the step where we take the Uno game and separate it out from its UI and create essentially a desktop API out of it. And then from the desktop API, we put that inside of a Spring Boot server,
Yeah.
and that turns it into
An actual API call for fetches.
Yeah, so that'll be something kind of cool. And if actually I'm going to maybe record a video on connecting to an API for a third party and make that available for those that are interested in that part of it. Because a lot of times you're connecting to third party APIs from components, but
You can use Google's. Google's is pretty easy.
yeah, that's true. Google has
Theirs is
one.
really well documented.
And actually Amazon, their marketplace has a API. I think you just need to create a developer account, and then you can download all of their products with all their codes and their prices and everything like that. So you can create a little interface of Amazon, make your own little Amazon marketplace. Yeah, Amazon shop, right. And they're it's funny you say that. I'm going to go back, date myself a little bit. This was back in 2007. The hotels, I worked for a company called Pegasus, and we actually were the company that created the standard for how hotels were to create their data so that they can be shared on Expedia and Travelocity and Orbitz. Actually, we created Orbitz. That's what our goal was. But we created a standard for how hotels were going to be shown up on it. And then what we did is we made API calls. At that time, it wasn't called API calls. We used SOAP, which is old, but the concept was the same, where we could pull in all this data stuff. And we created websites, like hundreds and hundreds of these specialized niche websites with hotels on it. And at one point, my co-partner and I want to say we had about 700 different websites, like stay in St. Petersburg, stay in Charlotte's. We created all these URLs and created hotel specific to it. And we were making about $7,000 to $8,000 a month getting commission on these hotels. And then they shut all that stuff down. But well, Amazon Web Service, I'm guessing you make commission when you create those accounts. You actually get a percentage of everything you sell. So and it comes down to marketing, which I don't think any of us really want to get into the marketing side of it. But we can build it if we find a strong marketing person. We can have a little steady stream of income if we can get people to our website and they can buy stuff. You guys can just build the API part on the back end side of it. So.
And data structures are pretty cool. It's an interesting thing if you're doing, like, I'm not sure what Jared does fully for parsing, but it's like for front end, when I have to do it, because I have to use it for the user interface, Google's data is going to look different than Dropbox's data. So therefore, but I have a specific component on my front end that needs to look, which is my folder tree, a very certain way, because obviously I need it to be reusable for any third-party data we get. So the fun part is now once I consume that data from this third parties, now sometimes I'm restructuring, or we call it like business specific structuring, to either objects from there or data information so that it fits the business need so that it's displayed a specific way. So that's been a fun ordeal as well that I've had to go through.
One of my favorite ones for that, and I don't know if Jared's run into this or Phil's run into this, is dates and times. When they start compressing dates and times into one field, and sometimes it's a 24-hour clock, sometimes it's 12 o'clock with AM, PM, sometimes they have seconds, sometimes they have milliseconds, sometimes it's Monday, sometimes it's they don't have a date of the week, they just have the dates, and sometimes it's month before date, and then 4-digit year and 2-digit years, and all kinds of stuff. That's always been a horrible thing from a developer perspective, is how do you handle date times when it comes across, because you have to display it a specific way. So parsing through it. So Jared's smiling. Did you run into that problem?
It took me about half a week to figure it out. That that SQL, because I like all the data we pull in. I populate a SQL table, and apparently SQL's date time is different than whatever language they're using on the other end. So it's not just date time. It's actually found out it's date time too. So we had to sort through the different types of date times to try to,
Yeah, I had fun trying to formatting on the front end, because React doesn't like how it comes in, doesn't see it as like, it sees it weirdly as a string because of how SQL holds the information. So like I had to look up, that took me probably a solid day of just figuring out what either library or what other formatter I could use to actually change the SQL's database's date time so that it shows an actual normal date time for the for the user. So
yeah, so I have an example. So I work for a German company, which they do date and then month is the second part. But the sample I pulled for a date was 12/12, and it didn't dawn on me that it was 12 was the date and 12 was the month. So I had coded everything that it was okay. 12 was the piece of it. And then when I started looking at some of my dates, I was getting out of index. I was getting all these crazy errors like that, because there's no such thing as month 28. There's only 12 months in a year. So I learned pretty early. It probably took me a couple hours to realize that Germany, their date format was not what I was expecting. So that's the other thing you run into. And 24 hours is just pain. You got to like figure out, okay, is it if anything above 12, if they have a 13, then you're on a 24-hour clock and you have to go and switch that stuff out. But some actually do the AM PM piece of it too. So anyway, that's always fun stuff. And that's what programming is about, right? We got to learn how to deal with unexpected formatting. We've got to learn how to get data. Everything's data driven. And I think that's probably the thing. If you're going to learn something above and beyond programming, is learn as much as you can about data, how data is used, how data is consumed, how data is created, how data is stored, the security aspects that come along with data, because it'll make you a better programmer in terms of like how you manipulate it. Because I'm pretty sure 99% of you, when you get to your job, is going to have some data component to your job. You're going to have do something with it from that perspective. So. Okay, well, so I guess the lessons I have so far is to keep reading, find research, create a Word document, and start documenting, create your own little book report of topics. And if you ever go into an interview, you definitely should Google that company and see what they're doing. Check out their press releases, check out what news they have, go to their LinkedIn page or go to their Instagram if they have Instagram, and see what they're doing, and make sure you let the company know, the person interviewing you, that you've done your research. If they got some big breaking news and you are not aware of it when you go into that interview, they're going to be like, what, why don't you know this stuff? That's expected. The stuff that's outside the company, the broader understanding, like the GitHub Copilot, that's not, but it's something that people geek out about it. All of us programmers at some point have found something. Cryptocurrency for a long time was a hot topic. We go to lunch and talk about cryptocurrency. We had meetings and it wasn't about cryptocurrency, and we talked about it. We actually did set up mining servers in our data center in off hours. I'm positive we mined 2 full Bitcoins, but I have no idea who has those wallets. I don't know where they went to. Somebody has them though, because I remember doing it. I thought we did it in 2007, but I think it was in 2009, right as I was leaving the company. But anyways, Twitter, when that first came out, we geeked out about that. We thought that, we had long debates about, Twitter and things like, is it going to last? Obviously I was wrong. I didn't think it would. No, I didn't think people could communicate in 144 characters. Like, why do that? Send an email. And now look at it. I mean, Twitter, the email's going away and Twitter's growing. So, but so I don't have anything else specifically, but this is the purpose of these things, is just to kind of chat and talk about things that are going on. We'll do this again in 2 weeks. Sometimes I have a more formal topic where I have PowerPoints, and I might do that from a project management perspective. We might talk about some project management, because Jared, do your company run on projects? Are you project based, like agile, or are you using like Trello boards or anything like that?
We had I guess we're more project based. My team is. I can't really say the company as a whole, because everything kind of compartmentalized, I guess. And we had what's the big name brand project manager thing is we had.
So like Microsoft Projects, the big one, but Monday, Confluence, there's a couple out there.
Yeah, one of the big ones, and no one was using that. I guess it's like, I was excited, like, because I'd hear the commercials about it, and like, oh, sweet, we use it, and no one could tell me how to use it, because I was like, okay, this could help me with, setting up like sprints and whatnot for any things I wanted to code. And yeah, no one knew how to use it. No one used it.
So how do you keep track of what tasks you need to do? Do you have just like a notebook, or you just like, they're all in your head?
It's pretty much all in my head. I do I do have a whiteboard that's on the other side of the room that I have all the things I'm doing, need to do, have done.
Okay.
But yeah, there's no we're a small team. It's like 7 of us, and I'm really the only full-time programmer. And I'm really only doing one. I'm a one-trick pony at this point.
So Phil, are you using anything for tracking software or for projects?
Yeah, we use Confluent. So we use Jira. So essentially our method's a Kanban board. Throw tickets up, we comment on our tickets. Once we push our PRs up, so make a PR request, a pull request up, then it basically tells us our ticket's under review. We move it over, and then if it's approved, it moves automatically over to the next one, of basically saying, hey, this feature is waiting to get fully released into production. If not, the product owner can always move it back and let us know if we need to make any adjustments or changes to it. So that's our primary ticket pathline on our task of how we manage what we're working on.
Okay.
That's the one we had, was Jira.
Okay. Yeah, that's the big one. And Jason and Chris, I think we actually run the 4th class. There's a little project we run in there, and you'll learn some of these concepts in that class, too also. So
are you guys going to have them? I know we did it a little bit, but for sure, the biggest thing that I would say from my experience is getting them more comfortable with like branching off of masters. pushing back on masters, stashing before they do things, how to like go back to a commit. It's like some of those little things I had to learn, but it's very important when you're working on projects and you're like, hey, it's be mindful, make a commit, or hey, we just made an update. Because what happens is, they'll make an update to the overall, we call it our browser app, so the overall head program, because other people are working on other aspects of it. But you want to make sure the code you're working on locally is all up to date. So there's going to be moments that you're going to need a pull on the local branch you're doing. So that took me a little bit in the very beginning of being mindful on how to comfortably making sure that, okay, I can stash, pull, and then apply my stash, which is you taking whatever you're currently code working on, place it to the side, pull whatever you need to from develop, and then place it back on top. So then you just can help with any merge conflicts, make sure your stuff's still working and everything, so that when you put your PR up, it's as up to date as possible. But if you guys have the opportunity with the class, when you get up to your project stuff, I would say going over some of those things would be super helpful.
Actually, Phil, I'll connect with you and let's see if we can clean up some of our GitHub stuff, because I'm not familiar with Stash, but it sounds like that could be a very useful tool, because you're right, you pull stuff down and you don't want to lose the code you're working on, but you also don't want to be in the middle of making changes to it. Sounds like gives you kind of like a breather where you can push that to the side, bring down when you want, make your change, and then bring
it basically, like when you put it and say git stash, it literally takes you all the way back to when you originally branched off. So it literally puts your code off to the side, and then you pull, and then you just say, add and commit whatever merges you need to if there's conflicts, and then you'll apply your stash, and then your stash is your current working code, and then you can still go through and make sure you take care of any merge conflicts that might have happened or changes. Because with us, unfortunately, there's two front-end developers, myself and the guy who's there, and sometimes we're touching on the same stuff, and we've had a couple of times of either I pushed up code not realizing his stuff we both had PRs up, and eventually mine went second, so mine overrode some of his code. So it was a matter of like trying to figure out, all right, well, when did you put your PR up? What was your code originally up there? Cool. All right, let me go back in my branch. Let me pull your code and like basically fix all that and then push it back up so that production and development is going to be up to date properly. But
yeah, actually, I'll have my son join next time too, and he can talk about the fun time working with overseas programmers and repositories, and have you come in the morning and realize everything you pushed up the night before is now gone. So.
Gone, yeah.
So they've made changes for that, but okay. So a couple of things that I have, Abraham, you're going to reach out tomorrow or Friday, and we'll get hooked up and get you some opportunities. We'll get you connected with Tech One and Paul. Jason and Chris, feel free to start scheduling time to go over resumes and start networking and getting your 30-second elevator pitch ready, and we can get you ready to start applying for jobs. We can actually start applying for jobs, because I think by the time we get anywhere, you'll be well into your fourth class. And Phil, I'm going to hook up with you and we'll talk about some GitHub pieces. So it sounds like I got some to do deliverables on my side, but we got a few minutes left. I'm not sure anybody have anything they want to add. James, I've kind of didn't call on you, but I figured you'd chime in if you had anything you wanted to talk about.
I would.
All you.
I really don't have anything to add right now.
Oh, I thought you said you would.
No, I would.
Like,
he said he would chime in if he has something.
That's what I thought. I was like, but wait a minute. Okay. So, but yeah, I really appreciate this. I'm hoping when we get rolling on this, that we have bigger groups. My goal is to have about 20 people here and kind of chatting and really networking with everything. Jared and Abraham and Phil, I think you can see their names on here, but you can track them down on LinkedIn for Chris and Jason. Definitely start networking with them. If you can't find them, let me know and I'll send you the links for their LinkedIn profiles. But yeah, I'm here to help. This whole career part is, it can be frustrating. I know none of you had jobs before you graduated, but obviously we've get people placed at some point. So we're going to work with you. The earlier you start the process, the better, and the more ability that you have to talk about the cool stuff you're working on and broaden your horizon and talk about relative stuff, the better off you'll be when you go interview. So if anybody has anything, go ahead and add it in. Anybody want to say anything last minute? If not, we'll see you guys online, and we'll be chatting with a couple of you here in the next day or two. And if you ever need anything from me or James, feel free to reach out. So have a great night, and we'll see you guys in 2 weeks at another one of these meetings.
Yeah, reach out.
That's good.
anytime.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks, James.
Thank you.
Guys,
Yeah.
have a good one, everyone.
Thanks.
Nice
Take
to
care.
meet
Thank you,
Bill.
guys.
Good to see you again. I've never met Jared, but it's good to see you as well.
It's great. Nice meeting you too.
All right, bye-bye.